Alright, hi guys, this is Pete here. So we're going to continue with today's daily market charts. And you can see from my background, I'm definitely not in the office today. We have all implemented working from home, alright, in response to the government's request. Okay, so today is the 2nd of April. Now, I deliberately skipped 1st of April because it was April's Fool's Day, but I don't think now we are in the mood of fooling everybody or anyone at all. Okay, so I'm back right here at 2nd of April. And today I have with me a very interesting guest. Now, he's not here physically, but what he does is he actually send out his ideas and his thoughts, all right, on a quite a regular basis, and I learn a lot from him. And he's one of the top minds in the investing world that I really admire, and he's none other than the gentleman Howard Marks. Okay, so if you have never read about Howard Marks, what he wrote, I'll going to put a link later on, either in the comments section for you guys. But basically, Howard Marks recently did a memo, right, and he basically lists out the bull and the bear case of the market. And I want to give you a sense on how he thinks about the market and why I kind of agree with him most of the time. All right. Now, the first one is let's go through the bull case. Right. The bull case is actually quite simple. Is that by most forecasts, all right, the most optimistic one that he saw was that the virus will be brought under control in 3 months. Okay. And there will be a V-shaped recovery by the third quarter of this year, because everything goes back to normal, the economy restarts, and there'll be a V-shaped recovery in the market. Okay, the U.S. CARES Act, all right, which is the COVID-19 Act, all right, it's a package. We will revive the economy, and he mentioned that this time round the banks are actually less vulnerable because since 2008, actually the banks are required to hold more reserve and more money at hand. All right, so they are less leverage. Therefore, actually the financial system is in a better shape right now. Okay, so that's the bull case. But how about the bear case? Now, the bear case is this, right? He said that the bear case is that the ugly headlines regarding the COVID-19 continue, right, with no real end in sight, because he talked about how flattening the curve and removing the disease totally from the economy is going to take a long time. In fact, if you think about it, we have diseases in the world right now that we have been trying to eradicate for the longest time, but we have not. All right, and those that we managed to eradicate, for example, like smallpox, okay, or even rabies in Singapore, for example, it took us many years before we even reached the point of eradication. Okay, so this is what he's referring to, right? The second thing is he said that the economy will retract at a record rate. All right, and why is that so? Because there will be high unemployment, 8 to 10% in the United States, and most of the S&P 500 companies, okay, will see their earnings drop by at least 10%. All right, due to the fact that people are just not going out and spending. Okay, think about it. We are the earnings of these companies. All right, we spend. We either buy a phone, or we buy food, or consumption drives earnings basically. All right, so since there's less consumption, everyone is staying at home, likely there will be an earnings drop. And he's talking about in his bear case, he's still putting up a good scenario, which is 10%. Personally, I believe the earnings drop will be way more than 10%. Okay. The next thing, the government aid, which is the care package, all right, will take a long time to reach the people, which this one I really agree, because even in Singapore, where we are so efficient, all right, it's mentioned that the full package will only reach everybody on the ground earliest by September this year, all right, because it's such a big machine for the government to do. Okay, so if Singapore is so small, so efficient, we take September. I don't know, in the United States or other countries, which is a lot bigger and maybe perhaps less efficient, they might take a long time. So by the time they reach the people, it might be very late. Okay, and then the next thing Howard Marks talked about, right, which I thought was super important, is that companies that are highly leveraged will be crushed. Okay, this company thought that the music will keep on going, the music will never stop. So they, due to the low interest rate, they took on a lot of loans, they buy back their shares, and they're highly leveraged. And this company will be crushed, and he foresee that there will be higher default rate in the corporate sector. Okay, and last but not least, he said that with the oil prices remaining so low, it will create a very big shock to the oil industry, because it's not sustainable for them. All right, and that may have a downstream effect on the economy as well, because the oil industry, bear in mind, really is one of the largest employment in the United States. Okay, so they will contribute to a lot of this 8 to 10%, and therefore the cycle begins. Right, oil prices drop, leading to unemployment. All right, S&P 500 earnings drop, and this one, because less consumption, it's going to lead to oil prices remaining low. Okay, it's a vicious cycle, right? Last but not least, he talked about even with the virus controlled, all right, reopening the economy will be a slow and grinding process, okay? Because companies are not just going to be like, oh, the market's open, tomorrow I'm going to hire back all my staff and everything's going to be okay. No, everyone will take a very cautious approach because everyone will be a bit more cash strapped, right? People who was running business will be like, let's see what is the real demand in the market before I start hiring, okay? Because this is not the boom market anymore, this is the bear market. Everyone will take a more conscious step. So Howard Mark is saying that unemployment rate may remain high for a while and reopening the economy can be a very slow process, okay? So what about reopening economy, right, is that this is what I copy and paste for you guys here. Please go and read his memo if you can. But one thing he talked about, which I thought was very, very interesting, is that he said that the treasury handing out money, right? So in the US, basically, for every household, if you have 4 people, you generally get about $3,000 over dollars when the money reaches you, right? So he said you can make up for lost wages, but people need things that the wages can buy, all right? So replacing wages will not be enough, okay? Will not be enough because the economy still needs to produce goods and services. So when we shut down businesses, what happens is actually there is nothing for people to buy. There is no people, there's no business for these people to actually spend their money on. So therefore, it is a kind of chicken and egg thing, right? Should you start the business first or should you give people money first? And without businesses producing goods, even if you give people money, they cannot buy things, it's not going to restart the economy. All right, and he quoted this from one of his good Twitter friend, right? So laying out the bull case, right, whereby everything opens up in 6 weeks, unemployment goes back to their old job, everything goes back to normal within 6 months, the 2 trillion works, low gas prices and low interest rate allow the economy to boom, and then we are back to the roaring 20s. All right, he's referring to the 1920s, which is called the roaring 20s, but I guess now we can call it the roaring 20s for 2020, okay? Now, how about the bear case? Whew, the bear case is that unemployment rate going up to 20%, everything does not go back to normal, at least for a year or two. All right, in the meantime, there will be a huge demand shock. All right, there's nobody buying stuff. Due to the lockdown of businesses, oil will get a shock as well, causing a depression-like condition. Okay, so the main thing I want to share with you guys today, I'm not going to go through any charts, but I want to go through Howard Mark's memo, is that a lot of people are hoping that the whole situation will turn better. But as an investor, all right, as someone that's looking at this logically, I hope you guys don't just invest based on hope, all right, but look at this logically and ask yourself, what are the chances? And for me, it's very simple, is that I still think there are a lot more downside to go, okay? Simply because once you shut down the economy, it's not so easy to get it started. Once people lose their job, it's not so easy for them to be rehired as well, all right? For many of you out there, just ask yourself this question. If you were to be sacked now, are you confident that tomorrow, if you're going to restart the economy, you'll be rehired back into the same position? Perhaps for a lot of people, the answer is no, right? So it is not so simple, right? Putting the economy into a coma, like what we are doing right now, can have very detrimental effect on the long-term economy, okay? So one last thing I want to share with you guys is that that's why it is so important, right, to have backup and reserve, right? For me, is that I've been holding cash for the longest time. A lot of investors out there say, Pete, you're missing out on all the stock market gains, you're missing out on all the investment gains. But the thing is this, it's always very important to have reserve, backed up, or insurance to protect yourself in case of this kind of big event that happens, okay? And why I show you guys this picture is because even in nature, all right, or if you are a believer of God, all right, even God designed our body giving us backup and reserve, right? We have 2 lungs, we have 2 kidneys. Not shown here is we have 2 eyes, all right? For guys and ladies, your reproductive organs, you have 2 of each as well. Now, why is this so important? Simply because they are important, that's why there are 2, right? If one fails, the other can continue to function. So one thing I want to encourage all of you out there right now who are investing, or if you're not investing, right, this will be a good time to learn a great lesson, is that you need to have backup and reserve in your life, especially financially, you need to have it, okay? Because if you're financially too strapped and you cannot survive a shock like COVID-19, all right, your business is going to shut down, your family is going to go into trouble, all right? it is not worth the risk for you to take on earlier. Like if you are over leveraged in housing, for example, all right, I've seen a lot of people whose income is not super high, but they actually buy a super big house. All right, that is very dangerous. Or if you are investing based on leverage money, that means it's not your own cash. You actually borrow money to invest. That's also very dangerous. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you have enough reserve, enough backup, so they can tide through this period. Okay, so I want to end on a great note is that a lot of students who are with me, all right, I've been talking about this for the longest time, so I'm pretty sure many of you have ample backup and reserve. So now the market is coming down, all right, there are only a few things you can do. Is either you stay on the side, hold on to the cash, wait for the market to show some kind of recovery and then you jump it in, or if you are more aggressive like myself, you can put on some bearish trade and then make some money along the way. Okay, so it is not all doom and gloom. The basic idea is that we need to survive this period, okay, and a lot of times during crises like this, cash is king, and having the knowledge to invest is also super important. All right, so I hope you guys learned a lot from this session, and I'll see you guys in the next video.